Okay, so this is the orientation session of the PLR Setup Masterclass. And in the orientation, I want to just kind of let you know that the branding process in in the PLR setup is always going to be a separate thing. Because really what we call the branding process, which is sort of changing the graphics and making sure the graphics reflect your logo, make sure it reflects what you're trying to say, has a lot more to do with strategy. And really more should go into that in terms of making sure that your USP is included. And so this is probably needs to be covered in a separate in a separate vein, right? If we covered branding along with if we covered branding along with making sure that we set up things correctly, we'd miss some things in the branding process and we'd skip some things in the setup process. So that's a separate process. The other process is the repurposing process. And the repurposing process may not necessarily be fully relevant to the setup process, because what we're trying to do when we repurpose things is we're trying to make sure that we're taking the assets in a PLR package and we're putting them to use in a different way that suits our brand or suits our purpose. And really, that's a separate process from the branding process. There's a separate process from the setup process. So again, this is not something that we want to cover in this course. Here's what we want to get started with, and I want to say this at the outset, is you should already have in place, before you start the setup process, what you want to add in terms of your offer. So whatever you're going to be giving to the customer, this is the stage that you should be when you start to set up your PLR. So in other words, in many cases, what you're going to do is you're going to take everything that's in the PLR package and you're going to deliver that to the customer. I think that's great, although I think you should also be delivering some kind of additional value. You should be adding in some kind of additional bonus. And again, whether or not that's going to be part of the branding repurposing process just kind of depends, but whatever else you're going to add, it should be ready by the time you get to this stage. You should also have in place what you're going to be doing in terms of bonus. I think I just kind of said that, but if you're going to be adding in some additional videos, if you should be going to be adding in some additional audios, those things should already be in place by the time you get here. So there shouldn't be anything else you're going to be putting in the package by the time you start the setup process. This is the final thing you're going to be doing before you start driving traffic. In other words, your marketing strategy should be in place. Your branding strategy should be in place. Everything you're going to be changing, all those things should be done. If you're changing the graphics, that should be complete. You should not be doing that at this stage. You should already be ready to start creating something that's going to be traffic worthy. Right now, the other thing that you should have at this point is you should have your domain name. You should have a delivery account and a hosting account. I'm going to talk about the delivery account because the delivery account is basically where you're going to store the content you're going to be delivering to the customer. Now, in some cases, if you're using a system like, let's say, S2 Member, where you can store the files in the same place where you're hosting them, and then you can protect them in a different way that you're going to do otherwise, then that is a cause for maybe perhaps using a delivery account that's going to be in the same place as your hosting account. But in general, you should already have your domain name and a delivery account. Now, what do I mean by a delivery account? I'll tell you that here in a minute. And probably the most important thing that I do want to say here in the orientation is you don't have to have multiple domain names to create multiple PLR offers, right? You don't have to have that. And so in this case, you don't have to have, if you're going to have a Facebook PLR package, you don't have to have a domain name. It's going to be Facebook PLR. You can have yourdomain.com /Facebook PLR. And in some cases, that's going to be an easier thing for your customer to understand, especially going to have multiple products, than if you have all different domain names, which could be cost prohibitive depending on your marketing, your marketing decisions. Right now, you should probably already have some kind of business-related PayPal account. You should have an active JVZoo Warrior Plus account if you're going to go that route. Now, the minimum you need to have is going to be a PayPal account, right? And you can have something like ThriveCard, Warrior Plus, or JVZoo, but typically they're going to require some kind of payment system, and that payment system, for the most part, if you're going to be working with people in the make money online niche, you're going to be working with a PayPal account, right? So you're going to need to have that at minimum. So that should really already be in place. If you're not ready at that point, you should be getting there very quickly. So you'll be getting and establishing a PayPal account. And it really should be, if possible, it should be a business-related PayPal account. In some cases, you might start with a standard account, and it will take payments. But what I will tell you is that they will really want you to have a business account, which is a different designation, allows you to take different payments, and gives you a different level of, let's say, I wouldn't say security, but it gives you a different level of scrutiny in terms of the payments that come into your account right now. And the goal of this entire course, right, is for you to be ready for traffic to come to your platform. So right now, if you sort of have the PLR and it's sort of out there and it's not hosted, it's not ready, the goal is to get you ready so that you can do this yourself a couple of times, so that you're doing it over and over again, so you can do it almost in your sleep. If you practice I'd say the steps we're going to be walking through, you're going to be able not only to teach other people, you're going to be able to teach your outsourcer how to do it. You're going to be able to teach a family member how to do it. You're going to be able to teach even a client or a customer how to do it. So even if you have a client, right, let's say that part of your business is to do this for someone. If you're a marketer and you're listening to me right now, probably one of the most valuable things that you can do at this point would be to create a product for someone, to get it set up and get a buy button on there. You would be surprised at the number of people who already have traffic. They already have people looking at them. They already have, let's say, a platform. What they don't have, what they don't necessarily fully understand, is how to set up a digital product. And if you're not necessarily wanting to go out and market people and direct people to your sales page, one of the things that you can do is you can create a service doing the very thing that I'm going to be showing you how to do in this course. So again, think about that. If you like performing a service, if you don't necessarily want to sell the product, but you want to do this for someone else, set a price tag on doing this for someone and start setting up their product. It is a valuable service in this market. So let's talk about what a setup should do. So by the time that a setup is complete, what should we expect? What should your system do once it's set up? Well, first, a properly done setup should collect leads before you make a sale. So if somebody comes to your website, they come to your web presence, or you direct them into something that you have, you should have a system set up that collects leads before the sale. If you don't have that, this is part of what the setup process is going to do for you, and you should have that by the time your full setup is done. A properly done setup should pre-sell your prospect leads. So you should have messages, and you'll typically get this from your PLR package, where you can take the emails and you can actually pre-sell your offer. Well, you want to make sure those emails are set up inside of your autoresponder and that they're ready to go when a person either comes to you as a lead, or even if they come to you from the sale, you should be collecting leads. A properly done setup should present your sales page. So in other words, your sales page should be ready to go. Now again, you might have to learn a little HTML, but you don't have to know a lot. And in most cases, if you're not changing the sales page a lot, you should have a sales page that reflects what you wanted to say. Now again, when you get a sales page from a PLR package, it's not expected that you use it word for word. It's expected that you change it to suit your language. And again, this is not an HTML course, but we are going to show you how to go in and make some basic changes so that the sales page reflects the things you wanted to say. Please, when you get a sales page, if you get a PLR package and you want to host the sales page, please change the language, right? Change the language to make sure it says and it talks the way you talk. One of the disconnects, and one of the things I find, even if all you want to do is you want to get the offer and you want to get it up and you want to get the host, you want to drive traffic to it. The idea behind having a sales page done for you is so that it becomes a template for you to make changes. It's not for you to use verbatim as is. Because one of the disconnects that happens is somebody comes to that sales page and it doesn't sound like something you say. It doesn't sound like your webinars. It doesn't sound like your training. And you want to make sure that the language in your sales page sounds like you. You don't want it to sound hypey. You don't want it to sound like something that's not you, not unless you're a hypey person, right? If you are a hypey person, and let's say that the sales page you get, it's not hypey enough. Make sure it says things the way you want them to be said. Now, a setup should be facilitating the buying process. So in other words, you've got to have a buy button on there, right? So the first thing and foremost thing is you've got to get the right buy button, and the buying process should happen. When your process is set up, it should send people, your buyers, to the upsell sales page, right? So that's part of the setup process. So in other words, they buy the front end, they should be sent to the back end. Right? Now, that's a process. It's not a difficult process, but that's what your setup process should do. Your setup process should send your buyers to the right download page. Let's say that they only buy the front end. They choose not to buy the back end. They should then be sent directly to the correct download page to get the correct product. If they buy the upsell, they should be sent to the correct download page to get the upsell and the front end. Right? So again, it's not a difficult process, but it's one that your setup process should do. Your setup process should collect leads on the sale of your product. This is probably going to be the most important thing you're going to do. If somebody buys your product, they click and buy, you want to make sure that you have a process in place to collect the lead on the basis of that sale. If you're not doing that, what you're really doing is you're really only building yourself for a one-time sale. You are setting your business up to work extremely hard to get your next sale, because you won't be able to contact the people that are actually buying your product, who actually liked what you had to say, who liked your pre-sale. These are going to be the people that you want to continue to market to. And if you don't market to them, or if you miss the opportunity by not collecting the lead on front, then what you're doing is missing an opportunity. Now, a setup should include your unique bonus, right? So again, now we talked about having a bonus. If you're going to use a PLR package and you're going to use it as is, you're going to use a sales page, one of the things you're going to be able to do to differentiate, and one of the things you can do to almost assure a second sale, is to have something awesome as a bonus, but you want to have that inside of your sales page. You want to be able to deliver that on your thank you page, and that should be part of the setup process. In fact, listen, you should not even be considering hosting a PLR package without a bonus, right? Even if it's not going to be something personal, please put something else in the package that's going to be unique. One of the questions that you probably have heard, maybe you've asked it, I've heard it a lot, is how do I make this if everybody else has it? Well, one of the ways you make a sale when everyone else has it, one of the ways you make a second, third, and fourth sale from even the person who bought me the first time, is to have something awesome in it that reflects you, that you know your customers and the people who are buying from you want. There are going to be times, I've done it myself, where I have bought something strictly on the basis of the bonus. Right? So if you have something that's going to be awesome, it should be in this setup process. You should already have it ready to go. And if you're going to be recruiting affiliates, your setup process should be ready for your affiliates to find your link and promote. Right, so what are we going to be doing in the PLR Setup Masterclass? We're going to be doing basically over-the-shoulder instruction. We are going to leave time for questions at the end. So we go through the process. Then at each stage, we're going to stop for questions, and we're going to take your questions, and then we're going to move on to the next session. So this is the orientation. We are then going to be doing next. We're going to start with a thank you page. And we're going to start with the thank you page, because the thank you page is really going to be, it's going to drive everything else, right? So the very first thing you're going to do is you're going to take the links that you place in from your delivery account, you're going to be placing them on your thank you page, and that's going to drive everything else. So that's really the last thing we need to do first. We start with the thank you page. We start with the thank you page for the front end. We start with the thank you page for the upsell. The next thing we're going to talk about is your autoresponder and email system. And again, that's going to be the next thing, because in some cases, what you are going to need to do is you're going to need to put something on your thank you page to ask for the lead. Now, again, not every system you're going to have. is going to collect that lead on the sale. So one of the things you're going to need to do, I call it bolt and suspenders, is to make sure you are asking someone for their email address once they make the purchase on the download page. And we're going to be doing that. But you've got to have your autoresponder set up. You've also got to have your email set up, and that autoresponder and the email system really should replace the lead with the name of the sale. So in other words, someone comes into your marketing funnel, they become your lead, and then they make the purchase. We want to make sure that they're treated differently. We want to make sure that you have two separate lists. You want to make sure you have a prospect list. You want to make sure that you have a buyer's list. We are going to do that in this process. You want to make sure that your setup does that so that you can begin to talk to people in the ways they need to be discussed, in the ways they need to be communicated with, so that they will eventually buy. Right now, we're going to make sure you set up your squeeze page properly. We're going to make sure you set up your sales pages properly, right? That's going to be one session. And we're going to go through testing your system. That's going to be the last session. Okay, now, okay, so what we want to do, right, is in this orientation session is to do some basics. We're going to kind of get the preliminaries out of the way. So we're going to take what we are going to be delivering in the course. We're going to be taking what we're going to be delivering as the product to the customer, and we want to upload content to a delivery system. Now, once again, this is going to be a non-secure way of delivering the content. Right now, you're going to secure it by making sure that the download page is not going to be something that someone can guess. If you want to secure the content, you can do that and go one extra step. In most cases, what you're going to be doing when you do that can complicate things more than you want it to. Right? So if you want to get your project up and running, you want it, your download page will probably be not guessable, but it's not going to be fully secure. And I want to say that here at the outset. There are a couple of ways to do that. Someone here mentioned, I think Jim mentioned, Amazon S3. One of the reasons why I'm going to suggest that you consider one of the other systems and not Amazon S3 from the beginning, right, is because Amazon S3 is going to be based on the amount of bandwidth that you use. So in other words, if someone comes to download your file, let's say they got to download it 20,000 times. That's just an extreme. You're going to be charged for the bandwidth. Right? You're going to be charged for the number of times they actually go get the file. So in some cases, you've got really big files, you got really big video files. Then what's happening is someone's hitting that download. Every time they hit it, you're going to be not necessarily charged a lot of money, but the more volume you do, the more you're charged. Now, again, in some cases, when you're at a certain point, it's not going to matter. You're going to use Amazon S3. However, when you're just getting started and you want it to be simple and you're trying to be cost effective, you can use a site like Mediafire or Dropbox, right? These are non-secure on the one hand, but on the other hand, they will deliver your file in a good enough manner. Right now, if you do want to secure the content on the page, you can use a membership plugin like Wishlist Member. Right, so let's talk about that for a little bit, because it's going to be the same process you use in order to upload a bonus to your delivery system. So I'm going to go here into, and what we're looking at here is Mediafire, right? Very simple. And all you're really going to do here is once you have an account with Mediafire, and again, there is a free level of Mediafire. So if you're just getting started, you want to have a place to deliver your content. You can start with Mediafire, and I think it's scalable. Right, so what we can do is we're just going to create a folder here, and we're going to call this delivery. Right, you can actually call this what you want. I'm just calling it delivery for the sake of this tutorial. We're going to open up this area that says delivery. What I'm going to do then is I'm going to grab my file. Right, and I've got it here. Right, I'm just going to drag and drop it into the directory. Pretty simple. Right, so again, Mediafire for the most part is going to be free to get started. There's going to be an upload process, so you'll see the file being uploaded there. Okay, and then once your file is done, you're going to use this link to deliver onto your thank you page. Again, very simple, right? Let's assume you have a bonus, same process, right? Making sure that you have enough space, of course. You'll grab the file, drag and drop it into the delivery area. Same process. Okay, so Jim's question is, are you dragging and dropping on a Mac or PC? I'm using a PC, but the same process you can use the Mac, Jim. Same process. Okay, so now we have our files there, right? So again, these are going to be the files that your customer is going to get. And they're going to get it. You're going to take this link and go to the thank you page when we get to that point. Right now, one of the other things you're going to need to do is you're going to need to create space for your sales pages on your hosting. And so you remember I talked about the fact that one of the things that we're not going to do here is we're not going to get a separate domain for each product. If you're going to have multiple products, what you're going to do is you're going to be using one domain name. Now, again, that might not suit your marketing plan, but in most cases, when you're getting started, the easiest way to get started is going to be for you to be able to use one domain and to use subdirectories. I'm going to show you how to do a subdirectory right now. Okay, so all you're going to do when you go inside of your hosting, and I'm using FileZilla. I'm going to go inside of my public HTML, and I'm going to create a directory. I'm going to create a directory for my product where I'm going to be uploading my files. And in this case, I'm going to upload, and I'm going to call this Facebook PD, right? That's my Facebook product. If I want to have a LinkedIn product, I can do another directory. I can call this LinkedIn PD. And all these are going to be separate directories for separate products. And I can do this as many times as I want. I can create one for YouTube. I can do one YouTube PD. So again, what's going to happen is when your buyer gets ready to see the URL, they're going to see yourdomain.com/Facebook PD. They're going to, when you get ready to show them the next product, it's going to be yourdomain.com/YouTube PD. So the idea here is, again, to create separate subdirectories so that you'll then be able to upload your content and create separate products, but all on the same domain, so you don't have to get two different domains. You don't have to get many different domains. Now, one of the other things you're going to need to do is you're going to need to get an email address that matches your domain in cPanel. So, for example, we're going to do here inside of our domain is we're just going to create an email address. Right now, this is going to be the email address that we're going to be using inside of our autoresponder. You're just going to click add an email account. You're going to give this email account a name and a password. Okay, so you're going to use this email address inside your autoresponder. And the reason you're going to do this is that most cases when you're trying to send email, you are going to be using the links that we created here from a specific domain name. You want to make sure that your email address in your autoresponder matches that domain, because otherwise what it looks like to an ISP is that you're doing something spammy and promotional. Right, so now it's not 100%, I'd say it's not going to be 100% certain, but it's one of the ways that you can communicate to the internet service providers as well as your email system that you are not doing something spammy. Right, okay. Now, one of the other things you're going to want to do here in the preliminary stage is to set up a support system. I suggest that you set up some kind of support system that you can pay for on a monthly basis, like Zendesk or Freshdesk. And again, we're not talking about a great deal of money here. In most cases, I think with Zendesk, there is a free setup. I think as much as, I think it could be $9 a month. So again, it's a not necessarily an expensive one. I personally use Zendesk, and it will get your emails delivered to your customer. And that's really what you want more than anything else. There's another system called Freshdesk. Now, obviously, there are other systems, but these are going to be probably going to be the most reliable in terms of sending an email, in terms of ease of use, in terms of making sure that your customer is actually going to get an email when they have a support issue. Now, you can use a self-hosted one. If you choose to use a self-hosted one, there is one inside of cPanel called OS Ticket.